Good morning, everyone. Good morning to the students in the classroom here at Life of Learning, and good morning to those of you online who are joining us for Guy's Sunday class with us. My name is John. Welcome. For those of you who are new, joining us perhaps for the first time this morning, our format, our agenda for the class is in a moment. Guy will give a 60-minute talk on the topic that he's chosen to present today. And then after that, we'll take a break and come back after about a 5-minute break, and we'll have an open discussion in which those of you online and the students in the room can ask questions, share impressions, and together we can explore a little bit more deeply what it is that Guy has presented to us. So our session lasts for about an hour and a half or so, and we encourage you and hope that you can stay with us for the entire session. If you can't, this is being recorded, so it'll be available on Facebook, YouTube, and our GoToWebinar archive as well later today, that you can watch it at your convenience if you need to. Before we continue, just a brief reminder to the students in the room, if you have a cell phone, do check and make sure you've turned it off. And with that, we're ready to begin. I'll read the topic and I'll read the key lesson for us. Our topic this morning is how to stop judging yourself and others. And here's the key lesson. Every shocking revelation that we are given to see about ourselves is, at its heart, an unseen act of mercy. It is the herald of an order of forgiveness unimaginable to the human mind.
Nice deep breath, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to everyone who's joining us wherever you are. Hopefully you're with us in real time, but if not, then any moment in which you are able to share with others, as we do here, insights that lead to new understanding, and new understanding that helps us to see the world that we're in with new eyes. There's probably no moment more valuable than that. And God willing, one day you would see that so clearly. It isn't that you would change everything that you do about your life, but you would change the reason for everything you do about your life. Our topic, as the key lesson pointed out, is that we're going to look at this idea of judgment. Now, I thought to myself, I don't want to give away the answer to my question before I ask it, but I've just done that, so I'll ask you a question, and now you can feel really, really smart. You should all raise your hand at the exact same time. How many of you know that at the drop of a hat, the moment you're in can become monstrous? Isn't it extraordinary, really? I'm just by myself having a cup of coffee or driving in my car, seated at a dinner table with friends or family, having a jolly old time, speaking of the upcoming Christmas season. And in a moment, I jump from one world into another. And the truth is, I'm not even really aware of the fact that the jump has taken place. Because the moment before, I was fully identified with what I called and felt to be my contentment, given the circumstances that were full of pleasure and people that I liked being around. And then in the next moment, I don't even remember that. All I know is that there are people around me right now that I don't want to be around, and that they've ruined the whole holiday season forever. So the question is this: have you ever really looked deeply enough to ask yourself, what is it that comes into these moments and ruins everything? Now, I've given you the answer. What is it that comes into every moment and ruins them? Anybody? Well, you weren't very sure for the fact that I gave you. I'm going to try it again. What is it that comes into every moment and ruins it? Nope. Yep. We're going to look at this topic deeply because in one respect it's impossible for a human being to understand, let alone begin to place him or herself under the laws of another order of their own being. A long time ago, it was written that someone had asked Christ all of these questions about how this, how that, and Christ basically said, if you want to know the whole of the laws and all of the prophets, the whole of the law, he said it's to love your Lord God with all your heart, your soul, and your mind, and to love your neighbor as yourself. He said that was the whole of it. Think about how... You know, do you know how thick the book of laws is on this planet? Do you know why the book of laws on this planet is that thick? Do you? Because every law that is made to overcome some conflict creates more conflict and the requirement of more laws. And what you don't see yet is that you carry that book around with you. It isn't something sitting on a shelf someplace in a congressional warehouse. That book of laws was written and continues to be written by an unconscious nature that doesn't know anything else to do other than to create some new law under which it can sit in judgment of those it sees who don't understand what they do, and to try to control, coerce, or otherwise imprison them in laws. Try to see this with me. How many of you know that when you're with certain people at the drop of a hat, before you're even with them, they are in a prison of your own making? Yes or no? You just have to think about somebody. And the minute the thought comes in, unbeckoned, I would add, never beckoned, who would call to mind that which makes them miserable. And yet something calls to mind all the time, doesn't it? This person, this relationship, what they did or didn't do, how they betrayed me. You fill in the blanks, and in that moment, the weight that you feel fall on you is not the person and the problem you have with it. The weight that you feel fall on you is this book of laws that you have unknowingly not just cooperated with its conditions, but have added to them according to your personal preference and circumstances. Everybody see it with me. I'm just figuring out how to say a certain idea so that it strikes home intellectually and emotionally, if it can and will for you. Did you know that you will never be free as long as you have anyone in your life that you can't forgive? You will never be free. Ever. That person will die, they'll disappear, or you'll die. It won't make any difference. You'll never be free. Now, I wonder how many of you can at least intuit the fact of that. Because I don't have to be with people. I don't have to be with the person that I have judged. I'm in the courtroom all the time. anytime their name, anytime I hear the sound of their voice, anytime I see them with my eye, like that. Suddenly I am once again not just hefting around this book of laws, but I am looking through them to find the associated passages that prove the resentment or the anger I feel towards this person is validated. How did that happen? How do I not know that? How do I not know that the only problem I have with any moment, let alone a person, cannot be separated from my own identification with a judgment I have of them? Did they create the judgment? Did they? See, you're so involved in the judgment that you never suspect the nature of the judge. And until you understand the nature of the judge, you will never know what forgiveness is. Because the revelation and realization of the nature of the judge is the same as being released from the judger, from the judgment, which is the same as the beginning of forgiveness. Because now there's no longer someone walking around incarnating itself in your life and incarcerating everyone that it sees on the spot because they don't look like, act like, they don't seem to be the kind of person that you know they should be and have judged as missing the mark. Do you see it with me? So with that in mind, we will get into our material. So would you agree that when you judge somebody, you have to be awake here. You can't just go to sleep, okay? And try not to judge me. Do you want to know one wonderful thing about the nature of freedom? Here's the beautiful thing about the nature of freedom. One thing about it. You're free when you understand that not only are you guilty of everything you're judged for, but that you were never guilty of that to begin with. That's when you're free. People say things, talk this, the other. You can talk, take a little, talk a little, take it. Just it goes on and on. You're just like water off of a duck's back, and that includes the judgment of yourself, which you cannot separate from the judgment of others. So if I'm judging someone, it's because why? What is this distance between myself and those that I judge? What is the distance between myself and those that I judge? I'll put it out to you for a split second. What is the distance between those that I judge and myself? Resistance. What is it? Resistance. Resistance, that's one word. Comparison, that's another word. Identification, that's another word. Nope, all over wrong. No, the distance between us that is judged summarily is the perceived difference between us. So the distance is the difference. And the difference, the illusion of it, creates the distance. But the problem is for us, we don't think that the judgment of others is an illusion. In fact, we never feel more real than when we are full of that judgment. Yes or no? And what is this difference? Where does it? Who comes up with the difference between us? This is real time. Do you understand? We're not waxing poetic here. You got up this morning and people ran through your mind and left dirt on the floor, or that you ran through their house and threw dirt at them. What is this nature? Who makes the difference? The judge. So we're gathering some facts. So the distance between us, which is born of the judge, is the product of something that assumes and sees very clearly what's wrong with you, meaning the difference between you and me. So that what I judge in you is firmly established over time and conditioned increasingly that you are other than Mr. Marvelous, Mr. Wonderful, Mr. Awesome. There's only one person in the whole world who says he's awesome out loud. All right, you ready for some stuff? Have you ever, it sounds like just Foxworthy. Have you ever looked in the mirror and thought, oh no? Have you? You put on a shirt or a blouse or a pair of pants and you look in the mirror. Yeah, I don't think so. Yes or no? Charlie? Okay, good. Charlie only has 3 pieces of clothing. Actually, he has 50 of the same thing. So you look in the mirror, you put on that shirt or those trousers, and you, nope, nope. Now, why do you say nope? Why? It doesn't look right. It doesn't look right. Now, I don't know if you've ever asked yourself this. What doesn't look right? It's so instantaneous. No, that's not right. And the minute that something in you says, no, that's not right, you go, obviously. So you're engaged in a conversation with yourself that you don't even know is going on. And not only a conversation, but you are being guided summarily to abandon whatever it was that you had on that didn't look right, and to go look through your closet to find something that when you at last put it on, you look right. And I don't know if you've noticed this. This isn't true for myself, I might add. I just reach and put something on. But you can put on, I know people, you put on 5, 6, 7, 8 things before you go, at last. Right, Charlie? Charlie? Okay. Or you put on something that you haven't put on like 6 months, and you look like a sausage. There's bulges in places that there weren't bulges before. And you think to yourself, that doesn't look right. This just doesn't fit. What doesn't it fit? See, Terry, that's fine, and that's the correct answer, but you just throw it off like you know that. You don't know this at all. Because you're always looking at people in every moment around you, and whether you know it or not, there's a summary judgment of it because it doesn't fit. And then your entire sense of self is a derivative of some conclusion reached by a judge long-standing in this unconscious nature that didn't start with you, but was cultivated over time by a conditioned society until when you look at yourself, you go, holy mother of pearl, how do I look like that? Wait, let me get these wrinkles out of here. Is that any better? No, this is what, if I could just make my lips really fat, then you would know what celebrities look like. It's not the shirt that doesn't fit. What doesn't fit is what's being reflected in the mirror. And the reason that what's being reflected in the mirror doesn't fit is because it doesn't fit some image of yourself along with its corresponding identity, that when you look and see something that doesn't look like what you think you're supposed to look like, you're sure that what you're looking at is what doesn't fit. When what doesn't fit is this consciousness that's forever judging everything and everyone around it so that it can remain, listen to this, in conflict. Are you not in conflict when you look at something and you don't like the way it looks? But you're not aware of the nature of the conflict. What you're aware of in that moment is what that conflict is pointing to you, having judged summarily what you see, and then say, I have to find some sentence. I must find this party guilty. And then you will change everything about everything around you. You'll get rid of friends and family. You'll live with an judgment. You do all this business, and it was never them that was being judged. Are you able to follow this so far? What in the name of heaven is this difference between us? Now, when I say this difference between us, I'm not just talking about this difference where I'm going to go spend time with friends or family. The joyous time of the year is here. When I get to go and judge everyone that I see and feel judged by everyone that I'm judging. And then wish them Merry Christmas, blessed be the name of Christ, and all the rest of that nonsense that goes on between human beings when everything about their exterior life, the laws that govern it, were written by a nature that can't live up to its own laws and has to constantly adapt itself to those laws so it can feel like it's actually a spiritual or religious person. How can there be a difference? Let's start simple. Go back to the mirror, because this is someplace you know well. How can there be a difference between what I see and what I am? Come on, you can use your mind. If I only do this for a moment, can you use your mind? I'm looking at myself in the mirror. God, what is that? Where did that come from? Why does that look like that way? How did this get so tight? This is personal. How can there be a difference? I'm sitting there, I'm in pain, but I'm not aware of the pain because I want to find something that will replace whatever this experience is so that I can be free of the sense of myself that I don't want that came up when I looked at myself. Yes or no? Yes. How can there be a difference, a distance between what I see and what I am? Can there? Is it possible? I heard yes and no. In reality, can there be a difference between what I see and what I am in that moment? No. Absolutely there can't. Now, if you can extrapolate that, then how can there be a difference between what I see in you and what I am when I see that? It has to be in imagination. It has to belong to something that believes it is other than not just what it sees, but actually other than itself, that doesn't want the experience of itself in that moment. You know, the more the mind awakens, and this is the difficult part of it, and you'll see in spades. The more the mind awakens, the more it sees how absolutely deaf, dumb, and blind it has been. And the more the mind sees how deaf, dumb, and blind it has been, the more it tries to heal itself. So it judges itself for being deaf, dumb, and blind when the judge of the moment is what is deaf, dumb, and blind because it believes it is other than what it is judging. Can there be a difference between what I am and what I see? Can there? But what about when I see this world, this insane world? What about when I see my brother or my mother? I go and I'm with friends or family, or I'm husband or wife, or I'm with my children. It doesn't make any difference. You can walk into the supermarket. You ever walk into a supermarket and think to yourself, who let that person out of the house? Yes or no? You comment all the time. What do you think the constant comment is? How many of you know your mind constantly comments? What do you think it's commenting on? What it's judged. But do you know why it comments on what it's judged? Because the moment it has judged something as other than itself, it is in an immediate conflict with the moment, and it has to try to resolve the conflict by thinking and commenting on what it is judged. That's how it keeps the illusion going of the difference between the observer and the observed. How could I believe for a split second that the nature of this difference, and yes or no, in this difference, is there satisfaction or dissatisfaction? And if there's dissatisfaction because of a disturbance, am I at peace? Am I at rest with what I see? Or is what I see seemingly the source of that unrest and disturbance? And when I feel disturbance and unrest, what do? I come up with something else that I can look at and identify with to either prove that there will be a time when I'm not going to be in this kind of pain, or that I can derive a certain sense of self, which is the whole reason for that movement anyway, by which I'm no longer aware at all of myself. All I'm aware of is how unhappy I am with you, and knowing that you are the source of my pain. I'm happy. I'm happy knowing that you are the source of my pain. Well, it's settled. Have you ever tried to get something settled? God help the people in our lives. Fortunately for me, this is no longer true, but up until the time I was in my late 20s, if there was any kind of discrepancy between myself and another person, I would talk them into submission. I'd just sit, it was like a bulldog with its mouth around some kind of bone. We're going to talk this out until you see that my judgment of you is right, and that the judge here is the superior self, and that once all that's clear, then we can go back to having the loving relationship we had the moment before. There's no love in compulsion, is there? The difference is the distance between us. And while it may not be easy to see when it comes to this constant experience of feeling as different as we do, I hope that we can see without any doubt at all that this sense of difference and the distance, not just between others, we'll go back to ourselves, the sense of difference and distance has to be an illusion when it comes to judging myself. Can you stretch? Do I need, I'm going to buy one of those toffee things that does this so I can turn it on when I want you to stretch? Or I can have a sign that'll go, stretch. Is there a distance? Is there a difference between who I am and what I see? It's impossible. The only way there would be the possibility of a difference between who I am and what I see is if my mind has imagined somehow or other that what I'm seeing shouldn't be there. That I ought not be this kind of person. Isn't that self-judgment? I ought not look like this in this shirt. I'm trying to get you to correlate it. I ought not look like this. I just look in the mirror. Oh my God, I shouldn't look like that. Oh my God, I shouldn't be like that. What's the difference? Is there? No, there isn't. You're going to hurt your hands. So what I'm trying to get to here is there is a definitive, and it seems like instant conflict between ourselves and ourselves and others, yes or no? But I'm not aware of the fact that I'm a spring-loaded conflict. I don't think to myself when I walk in the room that I'm going to have a reaction of some kind. And is your reaction by and large, isn't that wonderful? I just love the way that is what I love you so much. Is that your usual reaction, or what's your usual reaction? Oh God, there he is. There she is. Oh God, look what I have to do later today. Isn't that a judgment? Please. Because there's this time coming. Now, I don't think to myself, I'm spring-loaded with a judgment of that there's this time coming and I've got to be ready and prepared. But when suddenly the clock goes like that and oh no, now I'm sitting in judgment of myself for what? Because I'm not prepared, or I can't be ready, or I won't be sufficient to the moment. Isn't that a judgment? And who's judging me? Who's judging the moment? Can I separate the judgment of the moment from a judgment taking place in myself? Can I? So that the judgment of the moment and the judgment of myself are one thing, yes or no? Do you know why we're doing this? Because the mind is so asleep to itself, it never considers that whatever it judges isn't the thing judged. It is judging something the mind asleep to itself has compared itself to and finds it coming up short. So is it true or not true? Is there a difference between myself and what I feel distant from? Is there a distance between myself and what I see as different than myself? There can't be. But it feels so real, doesn't it? Because here I am. I mean, maybe, every once in a while, especially if you're out playing golf and somebody makes a suggestion to you about your swing or something like that, and you make that little change, you think to yourself, now I'm going to remember this for the rest of my life. I got it. Sometimes you have to threaten yourself. I did that yesterday. I stood up 2 times during the swing and topped the ball. It's called a worm burner. And I finally said to the men, the next time that I stand up and top the ball, I'm going to give each of you $1. That did it. Ask them. I hit nothing but good shots after that. Well, we all have our threat gauge, don't we? Something in us creates the distance and the difference. If I can understand clearly that the truth is, back to the image of myself, because this is so instantaneous, how can I not like what I see? Isn't that the most common thing in the world? Somebody prepares a meal for you. How can I not like what I see? And it's one thing to understand natural preferences, of course, but how can I be negative in that moment because of what I see? And whether you admit it or not, when you look in the mirror and something's bulging or something doesn't fit or you don't like that color on yourself today, again, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with preference, but when preference becomes pain, it's because of an unseen judge in that moment, creating a difference between yourself and what you see. And that's the key to understand here. Because until you do, you are what? Judge not that you be not judged. You are constantly being submitted to the conflict not produced by you and the moment that you see, but the moment that you see is separate from yourself. Listen, that you have to ascribe the quality and content of that moment in order to not want it. Don't you? See, with relationships, it's instantaneous. I've already got an account with you. I look at certain people and I have an instantaneous conclusion as to their character, so I don't have to think to myself, what's wrong with this person? I know before I even saw them. What a planet. Now you're aspirants. You are men and women, this is shocking, who are the hope of the world. One day you'll understand just how shocking that is. Because as undeveloped as you are, you're already miles above most human beings. Just because you have some understanding that has been attracted and added, properly so that there's something in you that at least wants to remember that here I am and I have no forgiveness in my heart at all. None. But it doesn't even dawn on me. Here's where this is the law of forgiveness. After I hate, I'm in conflict because I shouldn't hate. Because Christ wouldn't hate, therefore I don't hate. And I don't hate is the resistance to the fact that something in me summarily hates and resists and resents. And therefore I'm someone who isn't that which I am. That's the essence of interior conflict. Yes or no? And there's pain. Can you see there's pain in that? And that pain then does what to escape the conflict that's inherent in the consciousness that creates it? What does that pain do? It looks to what it has judged as the judge, as what it needs to do in order to get rid of whatever, in order to lay sentence down and imprison yourself or others. Except the thing that's interesting about purgatory, which is what this planet is, the thing that's interesting about purgatory is that you never come to an end of sentencing and being judged. Because there's always, it'd be funny if you said, what are you looking forward to today? I'm going to find something new to judge myself about. I'm going to find some way to judge others so that I have a future where I won't be bothered anymore by their presence. Does that sound like a nice human being? So something in us creates the difference, and the difference becomes the distance, and with the distance and the difference, it can't exist without a judge. All on the same page because we're working towards this. So if we ever want to actually know what it means to forgive another human being, and maybe that's not important. See, I mean, that's the other thing. Do you understand your mind is always occupied with what it finds to be the most important thing in the moment? Talk about something getting its teeth into you. Because when you are hot on the trail of what's important, are you ever hot on the trail of what's important? I'm going to Marshall's or Home Goods or TJ, or I'm going to talk to this person that needs a little talking to, or I'm really looking forward to talking to someone and I've already had about 19 conversations with them. In that moment, and this is kind of what we're leading to, there is a part of us, this unconscious nature, that because it has ascribed meaning to an object, to a person, to a place, to a possession, that because it has ascribed meaning to it, it can't see that whenever anything threatens the meaning it has ascribed to that object outside of us, that the summary reaction is a judgment that believes somehow or other that what is being judged, what you said, what they did this moment, that I, who am the judge of this, exist apart from what I was identified with the moment before. So we discover something else still. Is that there is something in us, and we talked a little bit about this yesterday, and I think during Insight Timer as well. What I find wrong with you as the object of my contempt, as the person or the condition to be judged, the subject of the moment that I blame for my suffering, the meaning of you or what you have done cannot be separated from the subject. My experience of the moment cannot be separated from the meaning I have given to the experience. My experience of the moment cannot be separated from the meaning that I have given to that moment. You've heard the expression, if a tree falls in the woods, no one's there to hear it. Does it make a sound? I'm explaining to you this in real terms spiritually. The meaning of any given moment that I believe is created by what is outside of myself is not created by what is outside of myself. The meaning of the moment exists as it does because something in your character quality stirs in me some past set of associations that immediately knows who and what you are, because I already know who and what you are. There's no room for you to change, let alone for me to forgive you, because in order to forgive you, I would have to see that what I'm really trying to punish and judging accordingly is the meaning I have given to the moment. So I am crucified by the meaning that I give to the moment. Am I not? You see, I'm crucified by my brother, my sister, by this world, this insane religious political body. I'm crucified by the fact that there's going to be another world war. No, you're not crucified by those things. You're crucified because something inside of you, and it's just like this, changes moment to moment to moment, because once it is ascribed meaning to something. Follow me. Let's go back. I ascribe meaning to the fact that I can't get into a shirt I was wearing, or that my face is not the same face it used to be. This is how you know people have had plastic surgery. You know, just because you can do something doesn't make it right. Just because you can afford something doesn't mean you should have it. But our life is all about bringing an end to the pain born of judging ourselves having fallen short of what we imagined we should have been and done by that time. How is it possible for you that you shouldn't look the way you do? Oh, God, please. It's a simple question, isn't it? How is it possible? Oh, Jesus. I'm looking at myself now in the video. Who the hell is that? What do you think is going to happen when you learn about your mortality? I shouldn't be dying? Who's your God? My God is this unconscious nature that has created summarily that which it knows to be divine, good, and holy, and timeless, and anything that threatens the image that I derive my sense of self from is my sworn enemy. When my real enemy, to use those words, is that I am unconsciously identified with a nature that knows nothing about itself, let alone how it continues itself through the incessant difference and distance between itself as imagined and what it judges. There's a passage, an old prayer, we've touched on it, I'll go over briefly. From the unreal lead us to the real, from darkness lead us to the light, from death to immortality. And it sounds like it's three separate things, but it's not really at all. The meaning of any object, as we've just covered it, the meaning of any object, what is an object? Subject, object. What is outside of me is objective, and what is objective doesn't exist without a subjective relationship to it. No sound, no ears, no sound. So that what I see and attribute as having qualities and characters outside of myself cannot be separated from the consciousness that then says, oh, look, that's what there is. That's what I see. And what I see isn't you. What I see is what that nature needs to see. Can you imagine that you need to see someone that you don't like? That would be crazy, wouldn't it? Everybody say, cuckoo. Cuckoo. How can I be anxious? Anxiety is so common to you, isn't it? How can I be anxious? Well, it's simple. If you were me, no, I don't want to be you. If you were me, you'd understand. I have to be anxious because there's so much riding on this moment. There's so much coming my way If you had to carry the weight that I carry, you'd worship me. You'd think I was an incarnated God if you knew the burdens of my life. And every human being thinks just like that, don't you? And what are the burdens that I carry? What are my burdens? Other than that which is an attribution of something that was judged before the moment came, that told me if I don't live up to this, if I can't do that, if I don't look this way, I've missed the mark and then I'm doomed. And then I get to spend the rest of my life accordingly. Of course, each condition brings up a new consciousness, another aspect of consciousness, one of the legion of eyes. Each one gives me something else to do. And I love having stuff to do because there's no end to what I have to do, because there's no end to my judgment of myself and others. And I've just described human life and its ugliness and the absence of love. So we're clear. The object of the moment that we don't want doesn't exist apart from whatever the conditioned nature is that attributes to that object its qualities. Yes? That means what to us then? What is that going to mean to you? Because here's the problem. Christ spoke of it brilliantly. He said, you can't serve two masters because you're going to love one and despise the other. You've heard that. I've spoken about it at length. I'm going to touch on it a little more deeply now. What does it mean? You can't serve two masters. You'll love one and despise the other. Who are these two masters? We've talked about that, haven't we? Who are the two masters? The two masters are an unconscious nature that is identified with a desire or a demand of its own. Those are the two masters. And are they two masters, or are they a single unconscious nature divided up into that which I'm identified with, an image that I find pleasing or painful, and that which I desire to get rid of or confirm myself as I see life? Two masters. And by nature, those two masters are what? An unconscious nature identified with its own desire of the moment. Please? See, do you think to yourself you walk around with unconscious desires? Do you think you walk around with unconscious desires? Nobody thinks they walk around with unconscious desires. But lo and behold, let someone say something or look a certain way or just walk into the room. Let the phone ring. It doesn't have to be anything. Yesterday, in my house, I had a little roof leak. And it's leaked there before. I've been up on the roof and fixed that before a couple of times. But the leaves gathered, and I even knew that I should have gotten up there and swept them off, but I didn't. And that evening I get up to use the facility from my bed, and I walk in water. Not on water, but in water on my floor. Ask me how well I slept after I walked in water. Then you sit and listen for the sound of dripping. So that's done that before, and there's a little bit of a stain there up in the corner of the deal. So I got hold of this mold killer, because I don't want mold to grow up in my house. Remember, we're talking about, do you think you walk around with unconditioned desires? So I get out this jar of industrial strength stuff. This is a squirt can. And I think, so well, obviously you're just going to squeeze it and it's going to shoot up there and that'll be it. I squeezed it and about a pound of goop just came out on the floor, on the wall. And it never got higher than 2 inches. And this was just before I had to come, and I was already running late for the chat yesterday. Now, what do you think, what kind of mold do you think came up? You could see it. There was a summary reaction, wasn't there? Now, ordinarily, you would blame the idiot, you, who bought what you did and squeezed it without considering maybe you had the wrong dimension on the squeeze thing. But here's the point. The instantaneous negative reaction cannot be separated from the unconscious desire. Can't. My desire, meaning what I saw as happening, was this effort squirt, this effort cleanliness, this effortless, I'm done with this whole thing and I can get on, I'm already running late. But instead of that, I had to get a box of towels and start cleaning up all of this goop that went everywhere but in the little place it was supposed to go. That was the nature of it. Now, by the grace of God, and as far as I'm concerned, because of these teachings, I'm able to use that moment instead of be swallowed up by it in a useless reaction that is full of judgment of the man who made that. Who would make a stupid squirt bottle that doesn't squirt? You understand, don't you? So then in that moment, I'm suddenly awakened to a desire I didn't know I had. And the desire I had, which was full of the idea of getting onto a peaceable moment, turned out to be the very source of my pain. Two masters. Two masters. A desire that this nature imagines as the solution. I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to get to this. The more conflicted a nature is, the more solutions it has to its conflict. Only a conflicted nature doesn't know it's conflicted because it has those solutions at hand when the pain comes up as the result of the problem. The fact that the solution already exists is the source of your suffering. In my mind, I was already out the house, mold was cleaned up, everything's good and go. I'm ready to go. In my mind. In my mind? Or in a mind that was already measuring and weighing everything where it was, all that it had to get done, all of that business taking place. And there's the evidence that the suffering that how shall I say, I didn't suffer that way. But the suffering inherent in moments like that want to draw you into that center of gravity called the self that has been denied, that in that split second, you can see, obviously, I couldn't possibly have this reaction unless I was already identified with a solution, a dream that I was in. But I didn't know I was in a dream. Until life, by the grace of it, which was that key lesson, by the grace of the moment, I was awakened to a consciousness that is two masters, that believes it serves itself when all it does is serve that which gives it something to judge and to live without the forgiveness of as well, I might add. Do you see it with me? That nature is always looking to save itself from the last condition where it judged what it did, so that it never stops trying to save itself from its own judgments. Out of judgment comes conclusion, yes? Conclusion leads to what? Identification, everything's copacetic. Now that everything's concluded and copacetic, then you should never be anything other than you agreed to be in that moment. Life should never present me with any problems similar to... What if every problem you have is the same problem? Honestly, I'm not being facetious. What if every problem in life is the same problem? Which, by the way, is why there's only 2 laws needed. Do you know what every problem is in life that's the same? The consciousness that creates it. Because if there was a real solution, which there are, there's real problems, you know. For instance, I have a problem I'm going to have to sort out with this stuff that I need to squirt. I'm going to have to figure out how it actually works, not just assume. How many, you buy a car and it comes with a book that's about this big, and all you want to know is how to drive and turn on the radio. Yes or no? You buy something so easy a 4-year-old can build it. And when you're done, there's 8 screws and 2 nuts left over. And then you wonder why it wobbles. And they say, well, did you read these? No, I didn't. No, I don't need to read instructions. Do you know who you're talking to? Then I judge you for thinking that I'm inadequate when my whole life is a representation of an incomplete movement. What have we learned? Because we're almost at the end of our time. What have we learned? Don't come to class? Be careful what you pray for? What have we learned? Seriously, what have we learned? Let's just split second back up. You're looking in the mirror tomorrow, or 10 minutes from now for some of you. And there's always a feeling like something needs to change. So here's the mirror and here's me. Life is the mirror. Life is the mirror. But I always see something that shouldn't be in the mirror. And I believe that what shouldn't be in the mirror is what I perceive in the mirror as separate from the perceiver. And is what's in the mirror separate from the one who looks in it? Well, now what's going to happen? Imagine for a split second, there's this little fish. And the little fish lives on one of those reefs that stand between the island, if you will, and the ocean. And if you've ever scuba dived or snorkeled, you know that where these reefs are, there's quite a bit of turbulence there because there's always a conflict between the movement of the water headed literally towards the island. The island produces the waves. It's too much to go into. So here's this little fish, and negative. Now, I don't have a character. Solomon can't fly down and talk to the little fish. So we'll make a school of fish where the master is visited, and you've heard this part, but don't get to the ending. And the little fish is bothered. It says, I'm always in these turbulent waters. There's the currents pulling me left and right. It's hell. He said, I've heard there's a place, I've heard there's something called water that doesn't have this in it. Peace. I've heard them. Where's this water? Now, you know, don't you, that this little fish can't see the water for the waves. You've heard forest for the trees? Can't see the water for the waves. How come I can't see the fact that the judge is what is being judged? What is being judged is the judge. I can't see that relationship because when the judgment comes up, I'm already identified with the part of myself that arrived at that conclusion before I got there. So the task is to start understanding when there's a painful reaction. Where's that big hammer of mine? Okay, never mind. I like that big hammer because it's an exaggeration. I have a hammer that's about that big wooden hammer. What happens when you have a reaction? What happens when you have a reaction? Listen, the pooh doesn't follow the reaction. The pooh is the reaction. The judgment of the reaction is not a judgment of the reaction. The reaction is the judgment. The reaction is the judgment. Because in the reaction is the conclusion of the object, the person, the problem that created it. Yes or no? So instantaneously, guilty is charged. Back to us. Am I not guilty as charged if I look in the mirror and I don't like what I look at? Yes or no? I'm guilty. Of what? You should look like that. That thing, you can't wear that. You've had that for 42 years, my wife says. I actually have clothing from 40 years ago. You can't do that. You can't look like that. That's what we say when we look at people, places, predicaments. We say, you can't be like that. In that moment, guilty is charged. Here's the task. You must learn to see what is being judged and see the judge at the same time. You must suspend the involuntary conclusion of one master that needs to be served in favor of the other. You must suspend the involuntary judgment. Not because you're going to be someone who suspends involuntary judgment. The world has laws about that now, doesn't it? Doesn't it? All the laws have to do with what? Listen, I know that your predilection is to judge everyone and everything that you see because you're this, that, and the other. But good people don't judge other people. Therefore, to be a good person, you must not judge. So now I'm in eternal hell because there is an eternal judge in me. The sins of the father visited not just 7, but 70 generations. And it rises up in that moment and summarily judges what it does. And I never think to myself that what I'm judging doesn't exist apart from the consciousness inherently complicit in that movement. If I can see that, what do you think happens? I'm coming to the end of the talk. That's where forgiveness starts. How can I judge you and blame you for the fact that I'm blaming you for what I don't want to experience in myself? It's not that you're innocent, far be it, but my job isn't your guilt or innocence. My job is my awareness of this nature that constantly divides itself up into a judge and what it judges. That's my responsibility. And the solution to that division is to do what? Is to be present, wholly present. See that this experience of what I'm judging, what is it like to be the judge in the moment of what I'm judging? What is it like? What is this experience in the moment of being a judge? Because instead of judging someone, the experience being the familiar passage of associated thoughts and feelings, each one justifying itself, now I'm aware of something justifying itself. Now I'm aware of something having to talk to itself. I'm aware of the pain that I believe is produced by the object as belonging to the subject that has cast the judgment. Then I love my neighbor as myself. And that is the same as loving God with all my heart, mind, and soul. Because now instead of being divided into that which I love and don't love, there is just the light that shines on good and evil alike. And now I'm a participant in that world. Let's take a break, come back and have our dialogue.
All right, welcome back for the second part of our class. We're about to get started with our open discussion time, where if you're on GoToWebinar, you can raise your hand if you wish and speak directly with Guy. You could also send a question or a comment into the question area. If you're on Facebook or YouTube, you can also put a comment in there, and we'll make sure that John, our host, gets it and is able to read it to the group. So before he comes up here to get started with that, I just have two quick announcements. So the first is just a reminder that our holiday banquet is coming up. It is December 13th through the 15th, so just a couple weeks away. And Guy was telling us yesterday that he's going to be sort of building up to that topic that we're going to be looking at, preparing to love and to be loved. So do tune in as often as you can. And if you're able to come here for our banquet, you're certainly welcome to. You can even make it a last-minute decision if you like. We'll be here. You can learn more about that at guyfinley.org/holiday. And if you're not able to come here in person, we are live streaming as part of this ongoing series for free, so you'll be able to tune in. And if you're not able to be at the free live streamed times, there will be a replay package as well. So just a reminder about that. And then I've been announcing over the last couple of weeks that there is some changes coming to our schedule in 2025. So I'm going to go ahead and read the full announcement again, just in case there are some new people watching online. Just want you to know about these changes that are coming up to our class schedule. And what I'm going to be reviewing is actually in a PDF file that I've put up online at guyfinley.org/calendar. guyfinley.org/calendar, and I think Paul will put that into the chat area there for you. So if you go to guyfinley.org/calendar, you'll see this little PDF that I sort of mocked up for you that has everything in it that I'm going to read to you. All right, so we're going to have our usual class schedule up to our banquet, which I just said was December 13th through the 15th. After the banquet, we're closing the foundation for 3 weeks, which just means that no classes in person or online. So we have a little holiday break there. And Guy will actually resume speaking on January 4th, which is for his Saturday Insight Timer class. And then starting on Monday 6th, the foundation is opening back up and we'll resume our usual schedule, but here are some differences to the schedule in the new year. So from that point forward, Guy will only be speaking live over the weekends on Saturdays and Sundays, so he'll speak live for his Saturday Insight Timer Talk and his Sunday classes, like what you're tuning in for right now. And the Wednesday class that we've had all these years is going to have a change. Instead of it being a live class, we're going to broadcast the best of the best talks of Guy from our archive. So there will still be a Wednesday broadcast. It'll be at 6 p.m. Pacific time. It will just be classic Guy talk. But you're welcome to tune in for that. And there's no change. It'll still be broadcast on all the usual places, GoToWebinar, Facebook, and YouTube. Let's see, another change is just to the starting times of our 2 study group classes. So we have a study group on Mondays that usually starts at 5 p.m. For our Wisdom School members, and we have a study group on Fridays that starts at 7 p.m. that's open to the public. Both of those are still going to be going on, but they will start at 6 p.m. Pacific time. So that means that our Monday, Wednesday, and Friday classes will all start at 6 p.m. Pacific. And as part of all this, Guy is he's taking a sabbatical for the first 2 months of the new year. So in January and February, he's going to be in Florida. He'll still be doing his online classes, or classes online from there. For those of you here in the area, the building, the Lola building, our annex building across the way, will be open on Sundays, and you can come and join a group of people who will be watching the classes while Guy is in Florida. But he's going to take that time as a sabbatical and start working on his new novel. And so just wanted you to know about all of those changes. And again, you can go to guyfinley.org/calendar and you'll see all of that noted for you and you can print it out. Any questions, you can just ask me or Chris and just write into us on our website there, guyfinley.org/contact. And now I shall hand it over to John.
I have just one preview announcement, just a heads up, especially for those of you who follow us online, that this week, as we all know, the end of the week is Thanksgiving, and then following Thanksgiving, all sorts of things start to happen. And next week on Tuesday, December 3rd, the foundation participates in a fundraiser through Facebook on December 3rd. That is Giving Tuesday. And there will be posts this week about that, so just drawing your attention to that. If you're on social media, pay attention, more information this week about that.
Because they say they match it.
They no longer do that, Guy.
They never did it to begin with.
Yeah. But they said they did. But anyway, do you have anything else, Guy, you want to say before we get started with our discussion?
Oh, God. No.
Okay. All right, this is again our opportunity to participate, to ask questions, to students in the room to come up to the mic at any time. I will try to be attentive and make eye contact with you, but please be bold if you wish to come up to speak. And those of you online, please be bold as well. Raise your hand if you're on GoToWebinar and you can talk directly to Guy. Those of you on Facebook and YouTube, please send in your written questions. And as Kate said, they're forwarded to me. So making eye contact, okay. I do have a written question that we can get started with. And this came in from Greg on YouTube. Greg says, "The present moment, the gift of living in its fullness. I can already feel a deep sense of completeness when staying in the now. My question is, when one is fully in the present, I assume that the rat race, the endless ambition, I'm a go-getter, etc., that still goes on, but everything now is just a play. No pain, no expectation, just a play, like playing a part, but knowing deep down you're already complete. Am I correct, Guy?"
You must find out. We have an either-or mind. It's the way it works. Now, why do we have an either-or mind? Who can tell me? Who can help Greg? Why do we have an either-or mind? John?
It's divided.
Because it's divided. Because it's two masters in one consciousness. And what is it that it loves about either-or? Because it doesn't exist without either-or. So everything about its life is in service to either-or. And in any nature that lives from either-or is fear. Because if it's this and it's not that, then that's bad. If it's this but that, that's good. And everything that's good becomes that which I resist, anything threatening that. On and on it goes. So Greg, short answer, yeah. But it's not all autographs and sunglasses. I don't talk about this much. I probably will get into some of it over the holiday banquet. Children try to change themselves. Adults understand that they have to change the world, but that they can't change the world until their self is changed. And the journey to self-change requires that there's no one there by your name that can change yourself at all. So that in some paradox, it is dying to yourself by seeing that the observer actually is the observed, that the judge and what is judged are a singularity, that brings an end to the surreptitious movement of suffering produced by a sense of self forever trying to escape itself or change the world it's in order to have a happier life. You change. You change. This is why real change is so difficult. It's not you you're trying to change. You think it's you. All of your changes, are they not predicated on a judgment? Is not everything you're trying to change about yourself predicated on a judgment? Can you make the full circle here with what we talked about? So that what would be real change would be recognizing that everything, as I've said before, is in fact self-settling. And that my responsibility is to die to the judge, is to die to what I judge, because I see that they're the same. Where am I going to go with this? Where do I wind up? Because that's what Greg's asking, isn't it? Well, okay, I kind of get this, and I like it when I'm there. I don't like it when I'm not there. Where is there? Is it too subtle? Where is there? Does there exist apart from here? So there's no there there. That's a new quote. There's no there there. Oh my God. Well, where is there then? There is no there then. Now is there. But I don't know who I am without there. I don't know who I am without you, them, this, that, what I have, what I don't have, how I look, the weight I need to lose, the weight I've gained, the way I don't know who I am without something to judge. So when at last all of that collapses, which is what this work is about, because it takes the opposites and reveals them to be a complementary action, not something that separates itself up in a divided mind. When all of that happens, suddenly you're here. It's all happening here. If I'm not for myself, who will be? If I'm just for myself, what am I? If not now, then when? That's the best I can do, Greg. Stay close. The journey continues for a while anyway.
Our queue on GoToWebinar is wide open, so again, I invite our GoToWebinar attendees to please raise your hand if you'd like to speak to Guy. Here is the second written question that we've gotten in. It comes from Annette, and she says, so we kind of shoot ourselves in the foot when we judge others. Our energy gets messed up in a ripple effect. It affects the situation for the worst often. Rather, if each situation is a blank slate, a new beginning, if that's feasible, we may be free in a way.
Yes, Annette. But again, we have an either or mind. Either I'm bitter or there's nothingness. Either I'm angry or there's just the absence of all these things that I call myself. That's not the case. Can a judgment of any kind create a new beginning? Can a judgment of any kind create a new beginning? Absolutely not. And yet, where do all of my new beginnings begin? With a judgment. So if no judgment can create a new beginning, then what would be the authentic new beginning that wasn't a blank slate? It would be the awareness of the judge and the judgment trying to tempt me into identifying with another new beginning and to suffer the death of that nature instead of letting it give me a life that is no life at all. So it's not a blank slate. At last, it's a full slate. You know, when you watch the movies, right? And they go, action. Yes or no? Action. And what you can't see is that when your mind goes, action, it has one thing written on a piece of paper. And it's the one thing that you think you need to act toward or against in order the movie to work out with a happy ending. So action for us is separation. Seeing the whole of the action is the beginning of an inclusive life.
Neil has raised his hand in the queue, so Neil, I'm going to unmute you and invite you in. Hello, Neil. Now unmute yourself.
Hello, Guy.
Hi, Neil. It's okay. Everything's okay.
Yeah, you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Very well. My wife's been listening to this, and she's relatively new. But judgment and forgiveness. We are having an issue with our daughter being
self-righteous,
cruel, mean, and it happens every 4 years, right around election time. And it's happened over and over again, and my wife has been in tears about it, and she is confused between how many times is she supposed to forgive, and that's the only way I can know how to put it.
I understand.
And are we being in judgment, and should we just let it go, or should we talk to her and say, look, you can't talk to us that way, and she's bringing the granddaughter into it, so it's very confusing for her, and she's not sure about forgiveness, and it should be judgmental. And thank you.
Yeah, Neil. And hello to you. Whoa. God. If you knew how much that hurt my ear, John, it's like somebody just drove a knife through my head. Neil and your wife. I was about to ask, how old is your daughter? But I don't think I need to bring that into the conversation. For us, the idea of forgiveness is that somehow I feel better now because I was able to let go of whatever it was that was driving a wedge between us. But I honestly don't think that forgiveness has anything to do whatsoever with feeling better about the person that we've forgiven, let alone about ourselves. When the spring comes and the flowers open, the flowers have to open because the light asks them to join in its movement. I think in some ways, Neil and your wife, I think in some ways that's very similar to the nature of forgiveness. I think forgiveness is the natural outcome of seeing that things can't be other than they are, but I've always tried to make them other than they are, and I finally have to stop trying to make them other than they are. I can't make the person who hurts me different, and my hatred or resentment, my inability to forgive them, the way in which I can't escape and free myself from the summary judgment of them when they do what they do. All of that has to be seen at once. Your daughter is cruel to you because she's demanding that you be what she needs you to be to feel safe and secure in herself. And your anger or resentment towards your daughter is because of a demand that you have that she be and do what you need her to be and do according to your ideas of how a daughter should be. And it's further confusing because, as you said, she lives with us, or maybe not. She has a granddaughter, and if I actually were to say I'm not going to put up with that, then I'm going to lose the love of a granddaughter. I won't have this relationship with somebody that I depend on. And yet what's fully clear, at least from what you've said, is that part of this dependency ensures that this darkness continues between us every 4 years, in quotes. You know, we all want a magic wand, don't we? Oh, you look so much better. As an exercise, the next time you look in the mirror, instead of changing your clothes, get a stick and do this, because you might as well do that. Do you know what the magic wand is in real life? It's the recognition that I'm a captive of a level of consciousness I didn't know I was, And the awareness of that consciousness, the light of that awareness begins to change my relationship, not just to myself and the judgment of myself, but the judgment of everyone else that I'm in, because I start to see the whole picture. We want a healing that's predicated in an incomplete understanding based on the demands we have on this life. That's what we want. It's part of this nature. That's all it wants. It wants a healing. And it can't see that the healing it imagines is the continuation of its suffering. Isn't it? Because I imagine the healing is when my daughter finally comes to heal, or when I reach some solution that allows me to live with your anger and your ignorance, because that's what I see you as being. What am I fighting about? What do you fight with any other human being over? Please, what do you fight with them about? I know you don't. I understand you don't have a complete understanding. That's my argument with you. You are different, therefore there's a difference between us, and until that difference is disclosed, the distance remains. And so the more I try to make you different according to the way I want you to be different, the more you resist, because that's all you can do. That's all that nature can do, is resist my insistence that you be different than you are. That's all your nature can do when you insist that you be different, isn't it? It resists, it can't do it. So then it finds excuses for itself, and it just goes on. The whole point here, Neil, isn't to try to bring an end to something, it's to see where things begin. That's different, isn't it? Because my mind is all captured in this idea of how do I bring this to an end? I can't bring something to an end if I don't know where it begins. And that's what the light reveals. But there's another kind of pain in that, isn't there? I can't have the certainty of my conviction that the problem and the conflict lies with you. I can't have that anymore. Nor can I have the conclusion that I'm a terrible person because I can't forgive you. Do you know that billions of human beings walk around hating themselves, judging themselves for their inability to stop judging others? And no one sees a contradiction in that. But if you see the whole of that, you realize that's a massive contradiction. So the awareness of the contradiction sets the stage for bringing in another order of awareness that wants to see the source of the contradiction, not how to clear it up according to some judgment or demand that I have. I hope that helps, Neil. I do. Stay close. On we go, John. My, how you've changed, John.
Oh, yes, my name is now Heidi.
Of these classes.
That's funny. Boy, a part of me was hoping you wouldn't talk about this today, and a part of me is grateful that you did. It is a very difficult cross to bear to see all of the mechanical judgment that comes up in every interaction and how much it gets in the way of a beautiful moment. And I can see why a little bit, but I'm going to test that by sharing it.
Yeah, but see, Heidi, that she said something, how it gets in the way of a beautiful moment. If you didn't have an idea of what a beautiful moment was, there'd be no ugliness in your life. You are Snow White and Cinderella and all of the other fairy tale characters trying to build a castle where you're knight errant, and the family that surrounds them, the royalty that have yet to, by the way, give me my crown, that if only all of them were in the same act I was in, it'd be unbelievable.
That's right.
Except it's an illusion. But when you speak, you have to see that, because you believe that the pain is because it's not living up to this pleasure that I know would just be there if only everyone and everything was like the way they're supposed to be. And that pain is because you know how they're supposed to be, and it's not you that knows how they're supposed to be. It's Heidi come through this world living a fairy tale to escape the nightmare of everything else that she was subjected to.
That's precise.
Okay.
I mean, that's very much to the point.
All right.
Oh, the sun is coming out. How do I say it then? Yeah, because it's difficult not to speak in the opposites. So I'm going to share what I remembered I wanted to share earlier about making cookies, and the fact that when Heidi goes to do something because of her level of existence, she falls into identification. And so instead of doing the one task and remembering myself like you would think I could remember myself in my own kitchen, but instead the whole world became a fantasy of cookie baking. And I wondered at the end, when I felt tired, I felt exhausted, what just happened to me? Why was so much energy expended doing something that's quite a nice job?
Come here. Because that's the way the cookie crumbles.
And that's when it dawned on me.
No, say that.
Because that's the way the cookie crumbles. Set it up for me. But that doesn't just happen with cookie baking. That's happening all the time, to the point of what you said. When I speak to my prince and am just blown over by Heidi's nature trying to interact. Wow, how disgusting is that? And here's the part that something doesn't like. There's not a lot of room in the fairy tale mind to be the Wicked Witch. To see that nature come up and go, oh, no, everything will be my way or you will be imprisoned. Who wants to live like that? And yet that's what's in here. There's so much insistence. Well, and you all probably see this as well. It's certainly not personal to me. I feel like I could go on and talk for an hour about this, but I'm not going to do it right now because I get to speak next week. I'm just grateful that we're digging, and I'll end with this. What feels unbearable is to see myself, to see anything wrong with myself, and it becomes 100% clear that there is nothing wrong with anyone outside of me, lest my mind says it so. And to bear that responsibility that when judgment comes up, it is like you said. There's nothing wrong with seeing judgment.
But see, I have to correct this again, Heidi.
Okay, please.
Everything's wrong with everyone outside of you. This isn't a fairy tale world where we go, everybody's love, love. Nobody has anything wrong with them. It's just the way I see them. That's the problem. That's not true.
Right.
They suffer from the same sense of being incomplete that drives them through the desires it does and turns them into the people they are, just as it does with you. So that's the understanding. The understanding isn't that you're this way and I'm that way, or you should be this way and I'm not that way. That's not it. The understanding is that literally everything is brought together for the purpose of revealing in you that which you know nothing about. Doesn't mean you change people who reveal that to you. That's the problem. And it doesn't mean you judge what you see as a result of being with others, because the judgment ensures that the judge continues. So it's there in that crucible where there's no known direction other than to stay in the awareness of the moment. That's conscious suffering. Then you don't say to Charlie, hello, my pretty.
Right.
Do you understand?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's tough what you're talking about.
All right.
Thank you.
It's a dead giveaway if somebody goes, hello, my pretty.
We have two written questions and a hand in the queue, so I'm going to take one of the written questions here. This comes in from Frida. I think many of us can relate to this. Hello, Guy. What I thought about is that for a long time I only bought very cheap clothes because I didn't think I needed it, and you weren't supposed to pay that much attention to clothes. But then suddenly it came into my mind, I need clothes. I'm going to go do some good shopping. And I really bought all kinds of things, and Frida was all happy she had all clothes again. But now I see that these two Fridas are the same. Subconsciously, you want to be a certain someone. Quite cost me some money to see that, ha. But good example of judging something. Greetings and thanks always.
Exactly right, Frida. You can't serve... Never mind. We don't need my wisecracks. Yes, 100%. Now what we want, Frida, is to see them both at the same time. Doesn't mean they don't. Look, you're here on a planet that's pretty tough. The planet itself isn't tough, but the human beings and the consciousness that they are immersed in and have embodied, the consciousness isn't in you, you are in the consciousness. That's important for you to understand. It can be tough. And every once in a while, I tell you, give yourself a treat. But some of you never stop treating yourselves. That's the truth. And why do I never stop treating myself? Because the pain remains in place. You can decide for yourself whether to give yourself something or not, only when you can live without what you believe you have to give yourself. Then you can decide for yourself whether this is something that I want because it fills a little hole in me, or it's something that would, in fact, be a nice little thing to have. There's nice things to have. But you have to make these decisions for yourself.
We'll go next to Shoshana in our queue. So Shoshana, good morning. You're unmuted. Just unmute yourself now, Shoshana. Are you there?
Yes, hi. Hi, Guy. It's been a while since I've jumped on, and thank you for your continued gifts. I just have three quick things. One is to thank you for sharing that you'll be taking a sabbatical. That has deeply moved me to see somebody who is so committed and to doing what he loves and take time to do also what you also love. That feels like a hall pass, a get out of jail. It just is so liberating to hear that you're taking the time to do something when I know you love what you do. So thank you for that. I wanted to thank Neil because I have a teenage son and his question was so helpful. And last, I just want to share over and over during this talk, I keep going back to a meditation that I've done where I go through a door and there is nothing but beautiful green field and beautiful blue sky and nothing else but me. And my question to you, Guy, is that sometimes when I could cry, but sometimes when I go there, I feel like I should walk, that I should move forward. And other times I just realize I should just sit and be. So when you said there is no there, to me that today also answered that. I could walk, but there is nowhere to walk to there because there is no there. And so what do you think? Should I walk or should I just sit and just be? I think I know the answer, but I wanted to ask it anyway.
There is no effort to escape yourself that isn't doomed to fail before you start. There is nothing you can imagine that will make you whole or divine or Christ-like that isn't unholy before you embrace it. Because every last one of those movements is produced by a mind that imagines itself separate and then imagines and senses itself as being whole because it identifies with some object outside of itself. Your ideas about God, Christ, Buddha, love, life, your ideas are outside of yourself. You don't know they're outside of you. They are objects. They are thoughts that seem to be true because the thinker that imagines them believes it is separate from its own thoughts. It looks for itself in its thoughts. That's like looking for the ocean in a desert. And only when you see that do you gradually, and it is gradual, you can't do this all at once, it's impossible. You're not prepared. You have to be prepared to see certain things. And one of the things that you have to see is that anytime something starts to move you in a direction that it promises you, if you do this, go there, get that. The very fact that something is trying to move you is trying to steal from you your right to be present to the movement of life itself that would show you, if you were within it, there's nowhere to go, nothing to do, only something to see and to be at the same time.
This written question is the last one we have from our online audience, and so I think after that, if there's any students in the room and you want to come up, please do so. This comes from Isabella, and she asks, what does someone do when there is an overwhelming sense of just being tired of it all? I know my conflict with life is my judgment of it, but how do you recharge when there is no one else in the mirror but self? Friends and family are gone, and there is a feeling of being overwhelmed.
It seems so often to us, and let's give Isabella a little due consolation, which ordinarily I would never suggest. But how many times in your spiritual walk have you felt as if you're just tired of it all? You can't count them, can you? Well, why are you still here? And you know the answer? Darned if I know. Something has a hold of me. At first I thought that I had a hold of something. Then I discovered that I didn't have a hold of something, but something else had a hold on me, and it wasn't that good what had a hold on me. So then I decide I don't want anything to have a hold on me anymore. I'm going to shake myself free. I'm going to rebel. And then I begin my studies in earnest, and I start to realize, something did have a hold on me, and what had a hold on me, God help me, was me. I didn't know it was me. The room is filled with strange noises. Really strange noises. Let's get out of here. Stay awake. Can't you let your attention go someplace without the whole of you being consumed by it? I'm going to give a whole talk on that. You have to have free attention. Your attention isn't free at all. It belongs to wherever the reaction drives it. But back to this question Isabella's asked. Not my will, but thy will be done. I'm tired, I'm old, I'm empty, I'm dry. My mind is vacant. My body aches. I see no future. What good was all that is past? And the mind just eats it up. Because when it can't get what it wants, it can hate what it's got. When it can't be what it imagines it needs to be, it can imagine something is denying it and then have resentment or regret for a life spent in the pursuit of that which proved to be fruitless. And all of that's the same trick. And the only way that you know it's the same trick is because some little part of you, some true gravity, something that is true in you, that has grown in spite of everything to see from time to time what you do not want to see, that sits there right in the heart of the soul, and it understands this too will pass, but not as a consolation, not as I'm going to get through this again, but rather, I'm not going to try to get through this again. I'm going to see what's here right now for me to understand. And if you do that, then that emptiness is filled with a new kind of energy, a new kind of understanding, even if it's just to do what I have to do and I have no way to get it done. I have no idea how to be a decent human being, but I will be a decent human being. I have no idea how to go further with my spiritual work, but I will go forward with my spiritual work. But there's nowhere to go. Nevertheless, I will go. I will remain here and see the part of myself that's already determined where I have to go and realize my suffering isn't because I'm not getting there. My suffering is because I'm identified with something that I need to do or be in order to be whole and free. That's the crucible. That's the dark night of the soul, Isabella, over and over and over and over again, until at last, and this does happen, you're no longer dragged down by the gravity of a nature that doesn't want to be itself, that can't imagine a future for itself. Now you're just someone who understands, this is my obligation. I am obligated to do what is true, even though nothing in me knows how to do it. That's my obligation. I didn't give myself that obligation, did I? Therefore, whatever has given me this gravity, this sense of self, it will take care of what needs to be taken care of. I will know what to say when it needs to be said. And if it isn't said, I will see the part of me that suffers because I think of myself and judge myself as inadequate to the moment. And all of it's grist for the mill. See you all Wednesday.
Would you like to have
Oh yeah, okay, I always forget that part. If anybody wants to come up and speak, you can share your thoughts, and maybe the people out there would appreciate learning that they're not alone in this deep stuff. No, not Roger. It's supposed to make it better.
Thought I'd step up here for the ratings, right? Anyway, my name's Roger. And I've been working with this judgment thing because what I've been seeing, and it's just really quite synchronicity that this talk happened today, that I've been working on this the last couple of weeks. And what I've explored is I just see my mind it's always measuring, it's always comparing everything. And then if something's out of order of what it comes up with as far as these comparisons, the differences between them, and I'm just trying to explain this. Please correct me if necessary. But there's differences in what this mind thinks things should be and what it actually sees. So there's a difference. And so it always looks outside. The mind, my feeling is the mind can only see what's outside of itself. It cannot see itself. Am I doing okay so far?
It's outstanding, Roger.
Well, no, I don't want that. I just I'm working on this investigation, and I'm trying to piece it together because this is such a big thing.
It is a big thing.
And
the problem is, and it's not a problem at all. I wish that everybody would recognize there are certain things that are literally constant with me, everybody according to their type. But I can see that this constancy, where it's been a source of myself over all these years, is really a constant pain in the you-know-what. And I constantly pain others with this too. So now, the mind that has been the source of this misery wants to sort out the misery that it's the source of. And you have to wrestle with it. You just have to struggle with it until you start to recognize, I can think about this till the cows come home, and it's going to be utterly useless.
And then the mind
quiets by itself. You can't create the quiet, but you can see that the mind is in a constant riot trying to escape the noise of its own activity.
So the thing I've been telling myself is when I see the mind doing what it does, I just say it's not me. But then I'm going, well, who's me?
Well, Roger, the minute you start talking to yourself, you're in trouble.
Exactly.
No, not exactly. That's what you have to see. Problem, talk to myself. See this, talk to myself.
Right.
I don't like you, talk to myself. I don't like me, talk to myself. That's the solution to everything, because the conflict has to have a release valve. And the conversation with yourself is the way in which the tension that is inherent in that divided mind releases itself. So you actually spend the energy that could be used to see the something that needs to be seen instead of talking to yourself about it.
Yeah.
But you're going to have to go through that too.
Let's-
Because never will there be a lonelier person on the planet than the one who stops talking to himself. But no one finds the divine as a partner until they start having the recognition that I'm always busy. I'm occupied. My house has a constant occupation sign on it. Go away.
I'm not done.
Oh, boy.
Oh, what just came up in me, I was listening to you, and I hear you. Stop talking to yourself. You definitely don't answer your own questions. But there's what's predominant
great here is that
is why I'm up here.
He's not like anybody. Everybody
Making a
knows
fool
what's
of
wrong,
myself.
don't you?
What?
You know what's wrong. Shouldn't talk to myself, don't answer my own questions. I've got all the answers, but when I step up to hit the ball on the tee box, I can't remember a damn thing to save my life.
That's right.
There you go, and it costs you $1, by the way.
Well, one thing I can say is that there's nowhere to go. There's nowhere to run. You can hide all you want. You can't get away from it. You have to learn this stuff, and so.
Thank God you know all of that now. Come on, Debbie. What has he got to do with you?
Hi, my name's Debbie. So this is the third skirt I put on this morning. Finally, the solution. Yeah, that's pain, isn't it? I'd like to be in the place where Guy just puts whatever he feels like putting on, but there's something that has to have, that wants to, appear a certain way. But I wanted to make the connection between what you had said yesterday in the talk after lunch about love being blind, because I think that's what you're talking about, because true love does not separate
It's
into...
not in the opposites.
Yeah, right.
It's the union of the opposites, and where the opposites are united, there's no opposite there looking at an opposite and deciding it's good or bad, worth loving or not. It's just the end of that order of self, which automatically, if you will, lifts you into or allows another order of being to descend that doesn't know itself by what it sees as other than itself. It is all that it sees, and that's what love is. That's agape, no distinction.
Yeah, you mentioned love is the negation of the opposites.
Yes.
Oh, it's the marriage,
There you go.
heaven and earth.
Yes. Now you and Roger can get together. You both know the answer. But what happens with what she said and what Roger said is that, and listen to the paradox, the conflict is greater, not less. The conflict is greater because I see with greater clarity where the solution isn't, what I cannot do, what I cannot think. I don't know what to do or what to think, but I now know what is not. This is the path of negation. It is only when all is fully negated that what is truly affirming life and the revelation of it is revealed.
Hi, my name's John. And sometimes I come to class and hear something that I think, I hope I never forget that. That's happened a lot of times, and it happened again today. Self-judgment can be excruciating. Just shockingly intense. And as we're climbing the mountain of purgatory, that's a process of purgation, of purifying. We have to be willing to see the yucky stuff. Shockingly unimaginable yucky stuff. And for that, I was grateful for today's first key lesson, particularly the last sentence. And I just want to briefly read that one more time. Every shocking revelation that we are given to see about ourselves is, at its heart, an unseen act of mercy. It is the herald of an order of forgiveness unimaginable to the human mind. And I'm grateful to hear that.
Good job. Every day there's lab work, isn't there? Yes. So instead of get thee to the nunnery, get thee to the laboratory. Do your work. I'll see you Wednesday.